Hey there, comic book friends. I'm Travis, and it's time for another comic book roundtable. How's it going, everybody? Tonight I have with me my now anchoring one end of my screen. It seems like pretty much permanently, which is pretty cool. Sergeant America, Mike, how's it going?
Excellent. Thank you very much.
And from the near future, to those of us who live in the States, we have this T-Bird. How's it going, T?
Hi, good, thank you.
Awesome to have you here. Always great to have some new faces on. People are asking, yes, I'm still struggling with invites. The way you normally invite people to Google Hangout does not seem to work anymore at all. So working around it, we'll get it figured out maybe at some point. So let's talk some comics. All kinds of stuff to talk about. Fair warning out there, we may throw all kinds of stuff out language and picture-wise. So as we discuss some of the funny books that we got this week. Let's start out by talking DC. That way we don't have to listen to Mike talk, because I don't think Mike got any DC books this week, right?
I've only got one to talk about. Sorry.
Batgirl. Let's talk Batgirl.
Yeah.
You have the wonderful blingy cover. And I have the Darwin Cook cover.
Yeah.
So if you've been on the internet at all, I would assume you've, at some point or another, you've heard some of the controversy that's around this issue, right?
Yeah.
And since then, no, okay.
No.
And since then, the creators have written an apology letter, right?
Yeah, they did just probably an hour or two ago.
Yeah. So let's talk about that first. Might as well. Let's talk about the controversy first, and the controversy that seems to be what most people are talking about, and I have some other ones, is at one point in this is, well, on your cover, there is a fake Batgirl, somebody that's guised as Batgirl, and she gets into the Barbara Gordon gets into a fight with this Batgirl and decals this Batgirl, and you discover that the Batgirl is a guy. And,
a guy, yeah.
Well, okay, we don't know, I guess.
Yeah.
It's that, and that's part of the problem, right?
Yeah, exactly.
What's the character's name? Danger? Something Danger?
Dazzler?
What is it? It's something Danger. Danger type, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Dagger type. Dagger type, right?
Dagger. There you go.
Yeah, Dagger type. Yeah, he's a whoever, their performance artist of sorts. That's basically what the Batgirl thing is becoming. It's kind of that sort of a thing. But as she decals, her response is not the response that we would. Part of it is, anyway, is her response, right? Barbara Gordon's response is.
It is, yeah.
It's shock. It's shock, and the way she delivers the line.
I think she goes to say, "But you're a man," which is not a great response for someone who is presenting as female, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And especially when, clearly she has a roommate or ex-roommate that's actually in this issue, which, quite honestly, I didn't realize that was her until they pointed out that was her.
Yeah.
But so you wouldn't think she would have that reaction because she has a transgender ex-roommate. And I think also part of the problem also is, right, the stereotype of, it seems the transgender people get put into a couple roles, and this character's playing one of those typical bad guy kind of roles.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Which
that seems to be the main problem that people are having with it too. Yeah.
I thought there was another curious thing in here though, where she's in the alley fighting the other Batgirl, and she kind of implies that I don't know. It felt almost slut-shamey in a way.
I kind of picked up on that too. I don't know whether I kind of felt like I was overanalyzing, but just trying to find it.
Basically implying that she's dressing trashy, right?
Yeah, she did. She said she was dressing. Yeah, and I don't know if slut-shaming.
That may be too strong. That may be too strong of how to define it, but that seemed odd to me too.
Yeah. I think more than anything, it's not, and I'm not incredibly well versed in Batgirl, but from what I know, it's not Barbara's nature to kind of be saying all these kind of things. I mean, it's not cool anyway, but if it was a character where I believed it, it wouldn't be such a problem. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Right. That continues to be my biggest problem with the comic, first and foremost,
Yeah.
is that Barbara Gordon clearly, to me, doesn't come across as Barbara Gordon. She comes across...
Yeah.
I don't know. I also think the book feels like it's more about style than it is about substance.
Yeah.
Right? They have this wire hanger that they're hanging this image of what these people consider what modern 21-ish-year-old woman lifestyle would be like. And nothing inside that, like I said, it's a hanger with a costume on it, kind of.
Yeah.
So do you think this writer is writing what they want, or is this some editorial sense of push to put transgender in?
Oh no, I think they completely missed the point with the transgender or the cross-dressing or whatever the term they're trying to imply. Some people are saying that the person isn't actually transgender because at one stage she's got fake breasts and then later on in the comic she's flat-chested, which could mean it's more of a costume thing rather than a gender she's trying to present. Regardless, I think it's just the fact that stereotyping that kind of character is just... I think we're moving past that, and I think they were just ignorant to it. They seemed genuinely surprised that what they did was, wrong.
So the writers wrote it because they thought it would be fun, not because
they just thought it was funny.
I think the reason I looked at the way I did when I read it and the quasi slut shaming kind of thing and whatnot, because it feels to me like that these creators kind of opened the door for me to take that extra look, because they have, since this new run started, they have presented themselves as being this new, unique, fresh look at all of this stuff. So I'm paying much closer attention instead of just reading my superhero book and setting it down and going on to the next thing. I'm paying closer attention. I don't think that, quite honestly, this person who's dressed up as Batgirl, I don't think has any gendered issues at all. I personally don't have any gendered issues, and of course I went as the bearded woman for Halloween. I think it's the same thing with this guy. I don't think it had anything to do with him trying to, questioning what their gender is. I don't think. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we'll get another issue and we'll see something. But I don't think so. I think this character's done. I don't think we're ever going to see Dagger type again. I think that's... Yeah. I think they didn't realize that it could be taken in all of those ways.
But it's so easy to do too. Like, I only know what I know because I'm relatively educated in it. I've read a lot on it. I've got trans friends, so I have a bit more of an idea. And I'm well aware from a lot of people I speak to, particularly people in my family, they just don't get it. They make the same errors because people aren't educated. And I think to some degree it was an honest mistake. Yep.
Well, I thought their apology was sincere. I mean, they said we clearly screwed up. We didn't realize it. We screwed up. It wasn't. I didn't feel like the apology was well, we did it, and we're saying we're sorry because you're upset. I think they're sincere in the fact that they put their foot in the landmine, and now they have to figure out how to fix it. So I'm not holding anything begrudgingly against them for that. I mean, if they had gone into it clearly to be malicious and it felt that way, and they were just apologizing because they were getting in trouble for being malicious, then I would be raising a much bigger stink about the book than when I'm as far as those things. I just know
I was just going to say that, the fact that the creators are the way they are is a big reason I'm sticking with the book. I genuinely like them. I follow both of them on Twitter and kind of watch them interact with their fan base, and they seem very keen to give the readership something that is relevant to them and modern, and they seem to be really figuring things out as they go, which is really interesting to watch. It's a pity it's on a title as big as Batgirl, but I really do admire that they seem to be trying really hard and they're really open to criticism. which is awesome.
Yeah. I'm going to stick around with the book for a while longer.
Yeah.
And for me, it's not because I think it's a great book or anything. I'm just curious as, for me, it's an experiment. You know, what is this all going to look like as it goes along kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because it has been such a radical, at least for me anyway, it's such a radical change in the character that is Barbara Gordon that she isn't even Barbara Gordon anymore. And and even if I look beyond that stuff, though, to me it feels like the comic looks good. You know, it's this great, awesome dress on a wire hanger. But if I get past the window dressing, what's there? And it doesn't feel like, other than, I don't know, there's a little bit of story in this that I'm curious about. The whole, you know, somebody choosing to have a picture taken of, because one of the things that goes on in the story is there's this art gallery, and they use Batgirl. It's just all these pictures of Batgirl. They're basically somebody stole Batgirl's image, and they're just using it, you know, using it everywhere. And one of the images is of her sitting in a wheelchair, all slumped over, which of course harkens back to when she was crippled, and that's interesting. I mean, that's one little piece of plot that I'm like, ooh, that could be. Who's doing that? Who's jerking her chain like that? You know?
Yeah, and I find that too. That kind of aspect of the book was relevant to modern life as well. That's the area they should be kind of targeting, rather. But then I'm coming from a perspective, like I'm in my 30s, and I don't know what 20-year-old women are into these days. But for me, that was more relevant than the fashion. Which is going to be extremely dated in a year anyway. So
right. But
I mean, it's not the Batgirl that we want, but I'm kind of hoping that it's going to be a good Batgirl for the people that are enjoying it, because that's the kind of most you can hope for at the moment, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Sure. And I'm curious to see where it goes from here. I mean, you know, like I said, I'm going to keep picking it up for a while. You know, I guess if they ever changed the price tag on it, then maybe I'd think a little harder. But I'm still, it's interesting.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, are you reading Batman Eternity?
I'm not up to date with any of my Batman. I've got it, but I'm behind. I like the cover.
The cover's awesome, isn't it? Yeah. Inside art's okay. As far as, you know, the art goes and whatnot, it's serviceable for what it is. Batgirl's wearing her new costume in this. Up to this point, anytime they've shown her, she's still using the old costume. So now she's in the new costume. They even make it a point of in the book, one of the characters mentions the fact that she's wearing a new uniform. This issue, it settles up some. It settles the score with Lieutenant Bard. I won't really talk about a whole lot about it, but it settles that up. And now we're right back to square one. Nobody has any idea who's doing any of this stuff. And so now they're having to go out and try and figure it out again. The whole Bat family shows up to try and help save Batman because they think he's in serious trouble. And then he sends them all off because, of course, he's Batman, so he's never in trouble. And he sends them all off to fix, to find out what the problem is. He needs clues, damn it, and he needs them now. So the entire Bat family rushes off to try and find whatever is, whatever they can to try and decide who it is that's messing with Gotham and Batman and everything. But
sounds really fresh and unique.
It's not. I mean, that's one of the biggest downfalls of it. I mean, if you love Batman and you like Gotham, you like the Batman family. For me personally, it's a fun read for that, but it's not anything that's too gripping and whatnot. And the only other train wreck that I read was Clarion, issue number 3, which the art isn't as good in this one because Trevor McCarthy does the breakdowns. He does a little bit of the finishes, but it's like there's 3 other people to help him finish. So basically 3 other people are helping him ink it and finish the rest of the book. And that was the one good thing about the book was the art, because as much as I don't like to pick on creators, Ann Nessetti, the way she writes a book is just bugwampers. I mean, it's like, what can we do to infuriate the reader, because that's what I'm going to write down. And it just the way it hops around, stuff gets introduced out of nowhere that somehow we should have some knowledge of, and clearly we don't, because it's all new. So I don't know. I'm done. I mean, I think this is the last issue I get. Maybe I'll end up with one more because of the way I order, but As much as I want to love it, because I love Clarion. He's a cool character. I've always liked the character, but I can't do Anna Seti writing anymore, and I'm not picking up any of their books that she's on. I'm just not gonna. I mean, I took one for the team for this book just out of curiosity's sake, and I'm not taking any more for the team. So,
well, thank you very much.
Yes.
Well, I know Clarion from the Seven Soldiers. Was there more that they did with him then, or?
That's where Clarion's really defined, is in Morrison's Seven Soldiers. Clarion's actually a Kirby creation from Demon, like issue number 7, I think, is the first appearance, and then he appeared a couple more times throughout that first Demon run. But the only place he's really been used with any real ambition was when Grant Morrison used him in the Seven Soldier stuff.
All right.
But yeah, I mean, in this version, this new 52 version, he's kind of cool and interesting, but I don't know.
Have you come across anyone who's actually enjoying the book?
No, I don't. Other than Sleepy, I don't know anyone else offhand who's. No, I take that back. I just watched another video where somebody had picked it up, but they hadn't said anything about it. Just was a poll review showing what they had. But I don't know. But I only know one person that says they like Anna Seti work. So I think that's Wonky Ninja. I'm pretty sure I've heard him talk about the fact he likes reading Anna Seti stuff, but I just. I'm
not sure. I seem to remember him saying he struggled with the writing, but I could be wrong.
Because I thought he was enjoying the Catwoman run when she was writing that and stuff. So.
Yeah.
Any other DC books you want to talk about? DC news? DC anything?
No.
I don't know anything that's going on. Other than of course, it's floating around now what the price of the whole Convergence. That whole Convergence thing. If you bought the entire thing, it's $365. Who buys the whole thing of those things anyway? I guess there are people who do.
Maybe they're trying to let you know how much you're saving by not getting it.
Oh, that could be. I don't know. Well, I just think it's curious why they would choose to do that. Why they would choose to work up the price tag for that. They never have for anything else. So I got to get around to figuring out how many issues are going to be to Secret Wars for Marvel and whatnot, so I can put it out too. It feels like it's some part of my DC fanboyness feels like that's somehow a slander on DC that it's going to cost that much to get that stuff, you know. When clearly a lot of people are just going to skip the whole thing altogether and save their money for 2 months or buy more indie books or, heaven forbid, more Marvel books or something. I don't know. So, yeah. So speaking of Marvel, let's just roll on to the Marvel books. What kind of Marvel books do we have to talk about? Mike, what did you read that was Marvel that was good this week?
What did I read? Well, excellent had to be Thor.
Yeah.
The new female Thor, which we'll just say is Thor, has been doing excellent work. The writing on it, in this one, she was more focused. She was right up against the enemies, so then it was, all action. And she was separated from the Hammer, so that it started to. She knew she was going to revert back to whoever she is, and they're going to tease that evidently, probably till, at the end of what their trade run would be.
Wait, if she lets go of the Hammer, she's going to revert back to not
for
being
too long. She mentions that
really?
It's if I don't get this hammer, and then they do show a little bit of it starting to dissolve away the helmet and the armor. So if she's away from it too long, she is going to be revealed.
Okay, so you're a longtime Marvel, I'm a longtime Thor reader, right?
Yeah.
Mike, is that hasn't been commonplace recently, right?
No, because, and that's the tough part I have too, is it's always rewritten. I mean, sometimes they link him with Donald Blake, so he hits the hammer and becomes Donald Blake.
Right.
But there still is Thor, so Thor Odinson, I guess we'll say Odinson. He is still there, and it's only when they link him with Blake that they sometimes put him in this ethereal zone. So no.
But certainly the Thor run before this one, that character didn't have an issue with being Thor, whether he had the hammer or not. I mean, clearly, if he had the hammer, he had a lot more power.
Yeah. And that's the thing too. I mean, he's still able to calm lightning. He is the god of thunder and lightning. Molinar just allows him to fly and gives him increased strength and damage. and supposed to open up also portals and that kind of stuff.
The lightning stuff.
But they continuously change the mythos of Thor, which I do like. Because
as a new reader, because I'm a new reader to it, I'm completely lost. But it being kind of a new story, it was easy for me to jump into, so I like that aspect.
Yeah. And I think that's what I like about it. Each time they start it, it's like you were told the story, but here's now the truth of it. It's kind of retconning, but it also makes it you can jump into it at different stages, because then it becomes your Thor. And that's what I do like. I think this is how every superhero should pass on their power. Captain America with the shield, Thor with the hammer, Hawkeye with his equipment. I think that's something that should be done. I think that's what keeps it fresh. And I told you, Travis, I would destroy a company every 10 years if I could. So
yeah, I know.
it was good. Malekith is still wearing the arm of Thor around his neck.
That's cool.
It is, it's so awesome. Definitely rough. And, it's fun. They have the Minotaur fighting Malekith. I thought was very interesting, because I had missed out on that part, so it was interesting for him to start touching back that he's not the Minotaur from history, but there's some link to it, that he has a magical axe and all that. And, I definitely do. I think it's intelligently written. I love how they put the words in the damage when she hits the hammer down. A comic book mom mentioned it last show, that they're doing this more often. And I think it's a brilliant way of doing that, putting the noise in, making the character really speak.
Yeah. The sound effect in the effect of whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
Trying to see. Here we go, where you can see that her armor is disappearing as she's waiting for Molinar to come back. So. Yeah, the giants, everything about this, and they do, we'll just reveal it. At the end, Mr. Odinson says that he's ready to take his hammer back. He now believes he's worthy. And I guess, I'm not reading the access, but I guess that's part of the issue, is he's out drinking, cavorting, other things to keep him unworthy. He's got his big axe, and so I'm not following it, but this is now on my pull list, and I want to support this Thor. I love this storyline.
Do we know who this Thor is yet?
No.
No.
Like I said, it was starting to reveal. I don't think we're going to know till the end of the 5-story arc at the end of the trade. I really think they're going to play it out at least that long.
And this is issue 3?
Correct. Yep. So.
I just want to say too, the art in it is just amazing. It has to be one of my favorite books for art at the moment. So that's my contribution.
Okay. Who's the artist on that?
Russell Dodderman. And color by Matthew Wilson. So.
Oh, Matthew Wilson's a strong colorist. So.
Yeah.
It is. The beautiful blue hues of either the monsters, the ice, how he does some of the explosions, and that it is. I haven't seen the style like this before either. With how the hammer travels with Thor, it is about the power. So you see the big, wide arc. With her, it's all about how it dances. And Molinar almost seems to have a mind of its own, because it keeps trying to get back to her when it's trapped in this vault. So it knows, it keeps trying to get back to her. It's moving all around, hitting stuff, and it is an interesting depiction that Aaron is doing with this. So I think it's smart. It's one of the smartest books I'm reading right now.
Cool. What else from Marvel want to talk about?
Oh, yeah, all right. Did you want to talk about yours, and then we'll go back to whatever I have left?
Sure. Right. Let's talk Amazing Spider-Man and the X-Men #1. And Tina's chuckling.
Oh dear.
Oh, this was everything I was after I ordered it. It's everything I was afraid it was going to be. It's just flat dumb with no real point. I mean, it has ideas that I thought might be cool, but delivered to me in just this felt like I was watching a bad Marvel Disney X TV cartoon show. Is what it felt like to me.
I think that's fun. I think when it gets that bad, it's just fun. It was just so bad.
And for me, it never made it to that point. It didn't make it to fun, stupid. It just stayed stupid.
No, I really liked it.
And I feel sorry for anybody who happened to be following me on Twitter. And I said, I'm picking this up. And I'm like, well, if you're picking it up, I guess I will too. And I really feel sorry for anybody who did because. So it was fun, stupid. Are you picking up issue 2?
Yeah, I will be.
Really?
Yeah, it's not something I'd recommend to anybody. I know it's really crap, but I just had heaps of fun reading it. I'm reading a lot of serious stuff at the moment, and this is kind of welcome for me.
I'd be willing to say I'd almost read Deadpool over this.
Oh.
Yeah.
Just to give you my idea of how just.
Yeah. No, I don't disagree whatsoever.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I like the characters. I like the idea of Parker, Spider-Man coming. It's even amusing the idea of him teaching an ethics class. That's funny. I think that's funny, and that could be really amusing and whatnot. To me, it wasn't delivered in any way that remotely made it.
Why is it funny for the ethics class?
Well, I just think it is. I mean, he's seen as a criminal, right?
Oh, okay.
Isn't he back to being kind of, Spider-Man at large, enemy number one of the city of New York kind of malarkey? Isn't that kind of back to where he's at after the whole Peter Octavius, silliness? So for him to be a wanted criminal and be teaching, young impressionable minds, this is, I mean, granted, he has that line, and they throw it out in here, with great power comes great responsibility. They do. Use that line. Man, if somebody got paid for every time that line gets used, somebody would be rich. But I like the characters. I like the students. I think the idea of there being a school of mutants that's all could be lots of good fun and games. I just didn't think it was fun and games. So
I'm new to Spider-Man. Is he usually this stupid?
He has serious moments, but Peter Parker and Spider-Man that's his way of dealing with bad stuff, is to kind of laugh about it. I mean, he's gonna cry and crack a joke while he knows things are really bad. I mean, in his head, he may be back when they used to do lots of word bubbles. In his thoughts, he's like sweating bullets, but outwardly he's this kind of smart-ass guy.
Because it was very kind of Deadpool humor to me, coming from Spider-Man. That's how I perceived it. He was just kind of,
And some of that's the same, yeah. Yeah. Maybe that's the problem. It was too Deadpool-like.
Yeah, and that's why I liked it.
That answers that. And speaking of Deadpool, of course, you got Deadpool Art of War.
I did.
I don't have it on my pull, and I haven't gone to the chain store yet to pick it up, but I fully plan on it because I actually have been liking Deadpool Art of War.
Yeah. Yeah, so do I.
Plot.
Yeah.
And the art's cool.
There's not enough Deadpool in it to probably annoy you. So.
Could be.
Yeah. I mean, he's not really even in this. The attention's not on Deadpool. And I mean, I don't know how much I can say without giving anything away.
Go ahead. There's no. I mean, it's
well,
Deadpool.
I was just going to say Hulk's in this one, which was just great fun for me. He's drawn really well, and it was my favorite part of the series so far. I think it's great fun. A lot of it goes over my head because I'm still learning, but even then, as a new reader, I think it's great. Yeah.
Yeah, because it plays a lot with the Marvel universe in general. Because of course
it does.
It's gotten to the point now where that's what a lot of the Deadpool books, at least the miniseries, are, is him messing with some universal thing. And of course, the Art of War, he wants to sell his own version of the Art of War, and so he needs to create a war. So he's got a market to sell it to. So of course, he's got the gods fighting each other. In the last issue I read, Loki had pretty much taken over all of Asgard, and was now being conned into going down and taking over Midgard.
Yeah. Well, now Hulk's involved, so.
Well, of course, they got to get the. I'm assuming they're trying to get the whole, because everybody loved that in the Avengers movie when the Hulk, pounded on Loki. So I'm assuming the Hulk's gonna show up to pound on Loki, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then an even bigger spoiler is the Fantastic Four kind of show up at the end too. So.
Nice.
Yeah. So that's kind of cool.
There's a team up, Deadpool and the Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
Is Thor still in it? Because last also.
Yeah.
He was selling a book to Thor, or was about ready to sell a book to Thor.
Yeah, he's still in it.
Yeah. Fun stuff. See, that's fun.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It's more intelligent fun for sure.
There you go.
It's got more intelligence to it than the other stupid books I enjoy. Yeah.
So, Mike, you read Amazing Spider-Man?
Well, before I do that, did you guys have a lot of inserts in your comic, your Marvel, for Uncanny Avengers, the #1, Squirrel Girl, Operation Sin?
Nope.
Ant-Man #1, Star Wars. Okay, I had
no.
two.
Mine had the Disney Marvel XD ad, which was very appropriate for a comic that, like I said, is that's what it felt like.
Yeah, because mine had these two little mini inserts for Star Wars, Ant-Man, Fantastic Four #642. Operation Sin, which looks like it's going to be the kickback to Agent Carter, Howard Stark. I was really surprised by that there's all these inserts. So, but otherwise, yeah, Amazing Spider-Man Part 3, number 11. I really like this continuing. I like this adventure of all these Spider-Mans, especially bringing back Superior Spider-Man. I am not a purist with my Spider-Man, so I really enjoyed Spock coming back. Yeah, Spidey-Ock. It was good because there's a fight between Peter and Otto on who's going to lead the group. And Ock tells him it's to the death, because evidently that's how we need to make this decision. And as they're fighting, Peter just kind of stops, and Doc is looking at him, and he's getting ready to, and he's like, no, wait. Peter is before me, so if I kill him, I kill me in the timeline, and at that point, Peter just punches him in the face and wins. So it's things like that was just enjoyable, and I have to thank anybody who loves all the different Spider-Mans, because there's every one of them. There's one, it looks like it's from the XD cartoon Spider-Man. And they even go back to, or get into a universe where everything is the 60s, and it's, J. Jonah Jameson as the here we go. It's best to just say it in pictures. Here we go. Good old J. Jonah in the very old style building that only have 6 for Manhattan. And they even mentioned it. They're like, there's no building in Manhattan that only has 6 windows, and that's how you did the art way back when. So this is the 60s style. It's fun. Every one of the Spider-Mans are represented. They're each have a fun flavor, and I like that. The bad guys, I'm not sure about. They just seem uber powerful. It seems like kind of the Avengers sort of thing. So. And they have the ability to regenerate. They can kill any spider person they want. So I'm not thrilled on that aspect of it, but otherwise it's a good Spider-Man book. So
I can't keep up with all the Spider-Man stuff.
Yeah, as somebody who hasn't read a lot of Spider-Man, it was fun. It was something I enjoyed getting back into. Just real quick, I'll do the X-Men Annual #1. Uncanny X-Men Annual #1. I only got it because it's Sorrentino's art.
Yeah.
It's a one-and-done story, and I did spend $5 on it, which is rare for me. I spent it's just the story of Eva oh, I'm trying to think what they call her. Eva something, and I'm not following any of the X-Men, so I didn't know anything about her. But it just comes down to wonderful, beautiful Sorrentino art, and all the things that he does perfectly with it. Though the only thing I didn't care for is she gets into the Wild West, and the bad guy looks like Oliver Queen from his run, and the girl looks like the girl from his run. I mean, the one that loved him. So,
the Green Arrow, yeah.
yeah. And there is one, he runs into a group of these X-Men. I'll try and get that glare out of there. And he does a certain thing with, when he gets a group of people, he always does this picture with them. Because he did it with the Outsiders all the time. It's,
right.
All the different clans, and I'm like, but I love Sorrentino's work, so I'm willing to let any of it fly. I'm not really going to say much about the story. It was good. It's a good one and done, but I'm not going to read any more, and I'm not going to go back and read any previous. So, thank you for the art, Sorrentino. That is it.
Yeah. Such a shame to have him off doing books that we don't read.
Yeah, and I think, and from what I read, I think it's just that annual. I don't think he's continuing to write the series. And I think he may be doing something else for Marvel, but
yeah.
And lastly, I did the Death of Wolverine, the Logan Legacy, and this is the Mystique issue. Beautiful art by Andy Clark. James Tynion IV was the writer, and Dan Brown colorist. I just loved it. There was a little bit of the story about probably the 60s, maybe the 70s, where they're trying to take over Madripoor, Mystique and Destiny, and so Wolverine interrupts them. And Mystique says, so long as Wolverine's around, we can never take over the world. I can't get my plans. I could take over whatever I need to if it wasn't for him. And now that Wolverine is dead, she has to decide, can I proceed with everything? So, I mean, it was good. I enjoyed it. I'm sure, all leading up to the weekly Wolverines.
Mm-hmm. So with Wolverine's Legacy, that's basically kind of telling past stories and past interactions that these characters had with Wolverine, right? I mean, that's largely what it is.
Some of it, and then some of it is, each one is one of the different people that was in his life.
Right.
Sabretooth, Dakin, X-23,
right.
Lady Deathstrike, and then Mystique.
Uh-huh.
Some of them were like with Sabretooth was, how do you replace Wolverine? That was the thing that kept him going. He kept hating, and he needed a Wolverine to hate and keep going in life. Some of them, it's about, with Dakin, it was about recovering all of his items and reminding people that I am still the son of Wolverine. You don't disrespect my dad because that's disrespecting me. Which I thought was good. And this one, yeah, is about, now that he's gone, can I proceed without him? With Mystique, I think it's all about getting ready for the Wolverine storyline. And now that you've mentioned it, last time we spoke, you said, will I be getting Wolverines? The answer was no. This is making me think maybe yes. Because, I mean, between Weapon X and how well Soul's doing with that, between this, it's tough. I'm enjoying the Wolverine story without Wolverine. So, and maybe it was just because he was becoming too cliche, but now it's allowing all these second-tier people to shine, and I think that's what I like. So, I could see myself doing the Wolverines weekly. Luckily I got a shop, so I can make that decision and go with it. So.
Right. You can make a snap decision to get it for a while and drop it immediately. Yeah.
Yep.
Unlike me, he was committed to probably 20-some issues before I can get out from underneath it if it's bad. So
yeah,
I'm hoping it's not bad. So we'll see. We'll see. Any other Marvel books?
That is it. Thank you.
clearly I am very light on Marvel books.
It does seem to fall that way. So.
Yeah. You got any others you want to talk about, T?
No, that's it. Yeah.
Marvel news.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is off.
Oh
You
yeah.
can say that they're on. But yeah, the Agent Carter will be interesting starting, I think, a second week of January, maybe.
Right after the holidays are over with. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 8 weeks of that, I think. So.
Yeah, I'll give that a look-see just to see what that ends up being like.
Going back to DC, Flash and Green Arrow did do their mid-season wrap-up. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was okay. Not to get excited about it. I didn't think, but whatever. The other piece of like movie-ish type news is there's rumors that they're trying to get Spider-Man in one of those Marvel movies.
I thought the hack showed that was not going to happen.
Oh, okay.
I think the sticking point was Marvel wanted Spider-Man back, and DC or Sony wouldn't give it up, and that was what was the hinge point.
Clearly, yeah, they're not gonna give up that property in a million years.
Yeah.
It would take quite a deal, I would think.
Yeah.
Billions with a B before they give that up. But okay. Well, let's talk some indie books then. I got a big pile of indie books.
Well, let's get started on them then.
Where do we want to start at? T, anything in particular you want to start with?
Oh, I'd like to get Bitch Planet out of the way.
Oh, you just bitch that that's good, right?
And because I'm dreading it.
Oh, dreading it? Why? You loved it, right?
Yeah, I did. What did you think, Travis?
Yes, I enjoyed it also. I will say I enjoy other people's enjoyment more than I enjoyed the book itself. The fact that like you and Cami, Reader 1717, and a dozen other people's videos that I've watched are very excited about the book and what it has in it. I think that it handles a lot of the stuff really well. There's parts of it, looking at it as a comic book, that I'm wondering why. Why the first page? Let's start out with the first page. I don't get the first page. Is this supposed to inform me of something? I mean, or is it simply just to set up this voiceover that goes on as the shuttle's leaving Earth's orbit and going to Bitch Planet? I don't.
Yeah, I kind of agree that.
Because that character, first I expected that character that's running and saying, "Pardon me, excuse me," or is that just so they can fit in all the signs in the background that have all the that?
Well, that's what I was going to say. Is the only kind of merit I get from that is to point out the advertisements, and maybe how she's apologizing so much as well. Because I find that. As a woman, you're taking up space, or if you're getting in the way of people, that's what you tend to do. So it could be
polite. Be polite.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've got a really annoying cat.
Yeah. Your cat is fine. That was the part that puzzled me because I kept waiting for that to come back in some sense somewhere. And it never did. And then after I was done reading, I read through the second time. I thought, well, okay, it must be that's what I'm supposed to be taking from that is all the advertisements in the background there. And because otherwise, I just took it as the guy who's running the soundboard is your typical shithead boss. And that's why I wondered about that. I enjoy the comic as a whole. There's, as we talked a little about before we turned the camera on live, I wonder about some of the race stuff that's in it, exactly how that's going to play out. I'm not saying that it's racist, but I'm curious as to how that's going to be handled going forward. Clearly my reading perspective is from I'm a white guy, so I take what I take from it. I mean, I live with lots of ladies. I feel like I can grasp some of it, but clearly not all of it. I don't know that I got as much out of it clearly as what like you did, for instance, out of it, which is fine. Because we all read it differently. There's parts of it that I thought were very smart. I love the hologram, the awful sexed up. Even when they put the Catholic mode on, it's still this kind of sexed up. Yeah. And
which is like, I guess, the feminine ideal that they're trying to represent, that men kind of conjure up. So that was kind of...
What else thought was weird, though, because I mean, they're using it to talk to ladies. I didn't think that would be the thing that you would use. I mean, because there's a picture of it. I mean, so she's wearing the nun's habit, but she's still wearing a corset and, I don't know, hot pants and thigh-high boots.
But that's what they're presenting to us in everyday media too. I mean, when I open any magazine, I don't see real women. Like, even when they put a real woman in there, it's pretty clear that they've had their waists thinned and their thighs thinned. So I think it's playing back into real life with that as well.
I thought it was an interesting twist that I didn't see coming. The whole thing with the husband, you get this whole him trying to recant, and I'm suckered into thinking that somehow he's trying to get his wife back because it was a mistake, and clearly that wasn't the wife. And of course they go over the top by not only making sure she doesn't come back from Bitch Planet, they really make sure she doesn't come back from anywhere. By the time it's done and whatnot. So this is set in a kind of that exploitative type thing. And is it? I don't know. I don't know that I felt like other than one of the opening pages that shows them all in tubes naked, which is. Well, one way is showing all the different body types, but in another way is the exploitive kind of aspect of it.
I think it's showing women as packaged as well. Like,
sure.
Yeah.
But beyond that, it being exploitive, is it just the idea it's a women's prison book? Is that the part that's exploitive?
Yeah, I think so. That's how I interpret it.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think where that comes from is that's Kelly Sue, the author's inspiration behind it as well. I don't know if she particularly was, that's what she was inspired by. So,
yeah.
I mean, I had a bit of trouble understanding some of it. I found it a little bit disjointed. But I think when you're trying to do your first issue and you're trying to show everybody what it's about, but also, hold back a little bit, you're going to get that. So... But that's the only real issue I had.
Yeah, I mean, I tried going into it removing my knowledge of like what's talked about in the back, because there's some back matter in there that talks about feminism and whatnot. Trying to remove myself not from feminism, but trying to remove myself from what the idea of what the comic's supposed to represent versus what did the actual 20-some pages tell me. Try to separate those two. And like I said, I still really enjoy the comic. Excited to see what's next. Excited to see where the story goes and whatnot. I don't know if like I said, if I got from the comic itself the passionate, delivery that some people got out of it.
I wouldn't expect that either. Like when I had that reaction, I kind of felt that I might be part of the minority who did experience that kind of reaction because of my upbringing. I just really relate to it, and I know that not all girls have had that kind of history. So yeah, that's understandable. But I think even when you put the feminist message aside from it, it's still a pretty decent book. Yeah.
Yeah, and when I say the passion, I'm not talking just about you. in particular.
Yeah.
Like I said, there's like I said, Reader 1717, and I've talked with a number of other people on Twitter. And clearly there's a fan base. Because there's lots of people raving about it and whatnot. And I appreciate the whole non-compliance thing. I can relate with that very, very well. I'm older now and have found a way to find my own niche in the world, but certainly my youth was full of everything I did was as being as non-compliant as I possibly could and whatnot, and I get that through the book alone. That is there whether I'm a female or not. That whole part of it makes sense to me. So
well, if you look at the general reactions, though, the girls that are reviewing it seem to be having a reaction similar to mine. It might be on a varying degree, but it's a similar reaction where a lot of dudes are reading it and going, I don't get it. So I think that says a lot about the general state of men not understanding how women feel, because the general reaction does seem to be, people are perplexed at why we're feeling so passionate about it. So.
Well, I don't think, like I said, I don't feel like I'm perplexed. I mean, I understand it. I completely get the passion behind it and whatnot.
No, yeah.
I'm not finding as hard a delivery there, but I get the idea behind it. There's comics that I absolutely love to death that I say it has all this stuff in it, and people look at me glossy-eyed and go, I don't see where it says that. And so I can relate with that too. And like I said, I'm as excited for the book because it's a comic book that there are tons of people out there that are extremely excited about. And if there are dudes out there that are upset by this comic book, I think it's done its role there too. And the fact is that they're uncomfortable because they're having to have a conversation with people around. This is how this book brings these feelings to me about how women are treated and whatnot, and forces a conversation. And do I want all of my entertainment to be that way? No, clearly not. But having those books out there are awesome, and I think it's great that the book is there. I'm excited for that because that's a conversation that needs to be have millions of times because I want to be treated a certain way, and I think everybody else should be treated that way too. And until that happens, clearly they need books like this to have those conversations. So it's awesome.
Yeah, I agree. And the fact that it is encouraging this kind of conversation is awesome as well. So,
well,
I mean that's
And I don't think there's anything wrong with people not getting it either, as long as they're willing to listen, to have the conversation, as to why it is that you feel the way that you feel about it. That's,
I mean, I've already had quite a few people just say, I don't really understand where you're coming from, but I really appreciate you sharing that because it just didn't even occur to them that might be read this way. So.
Right.
Who's the creative team on that?
Kelly Sue DeConnick,
is the writer, and the artist is
Delandro.
Yeah, Valentin Delandro.
And I'm not sure who does the colors.
A curious question. I mean, if part of this book is to deliver a message and stuff, and of course we talk about stuff in comic books. There needs to be more creators that are a diverse list of creators and whatnot. How come they didn't pick a female artist for? I'm stealing somebody else's question who isn't here. How come they didn't pick How come they didn't pick a female? Yeah, how come they didn't pick a female artist to do the book?
Okay, all I can say is from my perspective, if I was working on a book, I would do everything I could to support a woman to illustrate it for me. Mm-hmm. But I also understand the perspective that sometimes you've just got to pick the best person for the job. And there might not have been someone that did what she wanted for the book. That's basically all I can kind of come up with that.
Sure.
I think it's a really valid question. Yeah.
I mean, that's why that was a great question too. But that's my perspective on it. Also, is clearly. I mean, I don't know how much of this book is Kelly Sue, and how much of it, how much input does the artist have in the creation of the book? Is it really her book?
Oh, actually, I do have something interesting on that. I was reading just yesterday, and I'd like to find out more information. Kelly Sue apparently told the artist that unless she stipulates that she wants the character drawn white, all the characters are to be people of color. All the women, sorry, are to be people of color. So it does sound like the artist has a lot of leeway in regards to the art, which I think is really interesting because some of the criticisms have been that she's written the characters to be stereotyped, but I'm wondering if that might be in part to do with the artist himself, because from what I know, she didn't actually write black characters, she just wrote women.
Cool.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, well, yeah, it definitely does. That's interesting.
Yeah.
But like I said, I just don't know what, as far as the project goes, is it really Kelly Sue's project and everybody else is working for her? Or, where the, that's kind of my, curiosity. So, I mean, part of me thinks that that is the case. So she made the decision as to who it was going to be her artist. And I would assume that she went with what she thought was going to work for the project. I mean, and she's connected enough. It's not like she isn't aware that there are female creators out there. For whatever reason, that didn't work out the way it was and whatnot.
Well, Travis, who's a female artist right now that you'd be thinking of who's not working on another project?
A female.
I mean, I don't know for this style. Because clearly, I think the book is trying to have a stylist trying to have that kind of 70s, grindhouse vibe to it. I'll be the first to admit I'm not superly versed in lots of female artists. I mean, that this would be their style. Most of them, it's not this. They're cleaner look type things. I mean, there's Reyes, the person that she worked with on Pretty Deadly. I think she does an awesome looking book. Whether she could do this, I don't know. But I'm assuming there's lots of people out there that I'm not aware of that are just waiting to get their shot at doing it. I don't know. There's not a female artist I can just name off the top of my head, unfortunately, to say this is the person that should be doing this, because I don't get that much exposure to them, quite honestly, because I read quote unquote independent comics, but that's still a very narrow world as far as all the people out there who are doing artwork and are throwing it up on the internet or whatever that I'm not personally aware of. So, I don't have an issue. I don't have an issue with the fact that it's drawn by a guy. That doesn't bother me. Doesn't bother me one way or the other.
No, as a girl, I don't either. But I mean, that's just my personal opinion. I think it's the best person for the job.
Right.
Don't go choosing like a dude over a woman because he's a dude. But if he's got the skills that you need, that's just how it is. And I mean, I want more women in comics in general, not just on women-based comics. Don't go sticking them on this just because it's a feminist book. Go put female artists on Batman and all these other titles as well. And then you'll probably find that there's going to be more female artists in the marketplace to be chosen for books like this as well.
Right.
But I don't think it's a problem. I don't care that there's not a female artist on it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's just the whole message thing, because it feels like the book has a message beyond the comic itself, and so that's kind of where that where that question comes from is. If
us
if we're
feminists,
promoting this, why aren't we promoting it all the way?
Yeah, but I mean, feminists, we're not after domination; we're after equality. So
I'm completely aware of that, and I'm glad you said that.
Yeah.
Sure. I'm a humanist. I want us all have all have a fair shake, and I know that some of us have a much easier time of it than others do. Mm-hmm. So, what else do you want to talk about, T? How about Southern Bastards?
Yeah, sure.
You're up to speed on Southern Bastards, right?
I am. Yep.
So they continue to work on us liking Boss, that we're supposed to be sympathetic to his plight. As we're still in the past. Most of the issue, I guess there's a little bit of the issue that's set in the current time, but most of it's set in the past of us getting exposed to the coach's youth and the trials that he went through. that I'm assuming help inform us as to why he is the horrible SOB
Yeah.
that he is in present time.
Yeah. I know you've got issue with Jason Aaron trying to make him a sympathetic character, but I don't know if that's his intention more than he's just telling a story.
Right. No,
if that makes sense. Yeah.
I mean, I don't have a problem with that. I just, that's me just kind of joking the fact is that they're trying to make us feel sympathetic. I mean, the guy's had shit for a life. I mean, clearly. I mean, and I'm enjoying the story. I'm enjoying being informed of how bad the guy has it.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I loved this issue. I didn't particularly care so much because I'm not really a fan of backstory. And I kind of agree with you don't really need to try and make a bad character sympathetic. But by the end, like, I was really involved. I think because I've got children and, this kid's going through what he went through, it actually really affected me. The fact that he worked so hard and he was so proud of kind of being put on this team and it ended the way it did, and it actually really affected me. So, job well done. I love this book.
Yeah, they make it horrible through the whole thing, and then they hit you with a really serious gut punch at the end of it. They just kind of go.
It really was.
They do just kind of go. This is effed up. I mean, that he went through all the stuff he went through, the daily beatings and all the other horrible stuff, and then to have it all ripped out from underneath him was. And just as because I know you also read Minute Wrath. That book seems very simple to me. And,
it is, yeah.
And violent for sure. This book's violent for sure. This has the gut punch that other book to me doesn't have, and that's the problem I have with the other book versus.
I agree.
Versus this.
Yeah, but we're also more invested in this one. We're 6 issues into this, so I'd be interested to see where Man of Wrath is sitting in 6 issues as well.
It'll be done.
Because, I don't know. I think another point with this one is it really brings to light how horrible humans can be, because you can read a lot of horror that's made up, set in different universes with made-up monsters. This is kind of true to real life. This kind of thing does happen, and I think that's why I particularly find it really horrifying, and it does hit me in the gut.
I grew up with friends who were like this kid. I mean, they didn't get shot in the foot, but the whole family life, I mean, everything from, show up at the house and the prostitutes or whatever are there, the chickens are in the house and all that. that to me, that's not far from personal experiences. So not with my family, but like I said, my friends. And it's like, wow, So it's a horror show. I mean, there's no doubt about it.
Well, it's interesting to hear that, actually, because I've always wondered how true to kind of form it is. Because as I've kind of touched on before, I really love like Southern literature. I'm from like the American South, like Donald Ray Pollock and William Gay, and they write very similar stuff to this. This is actual books, not comics.
Right.
And I always thought it was, being pushed to the point of being to be shocking, but then I do hear people like you say, no, it's not really far from the truth. So.
Yeah. I mean, not to say. I mean, clearly, this is not all of the South. I mean, it's clearly not that long. But yes, there are places like that, and there are places like that aren't in the South, that are everywhere else. That is, so it's not like it's just the South. There, it's. I think to some degree that Jason Aaron is and Jason Latour are telling a story that's not that far from the reality of their stomping grounds, where they were and whatnot. So
they're kind of picking it up and they're amplifying it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Did you read?
T, I'm interested. You're reading Southern Bastards and Thor, which is written by the same guy. Can you see any tie, or is it? No,
I don't. No, I just, other than the fact that he's just a really good writer. I don't think I realized Jason Aaron was the writer for Thor until the 2nd issue. because I'm just so new. It's overwhelming. And at one point when I realized, I was like, well, I mean, that's why I like it. I've never liked Thor as a character, and Jason Aaron has helped me get into it. So other than that, no, I'm not seeing a lot of similarities at all, which shows, I guess, his diversity as a writer, that he can pull himself out of that mindset. I mean, is he writing all of these books at the same time?
Yeah.
That's a skill. That's amazing.
That's what I was wondering, because when you guys said that, I had to look through my pile, and I'm like, I can't believe it's the same guy who writes Thor the way you're talking about it. So.
No, I don't see any similarities.
Yeah, it's kind of like he writes his, because I was reading, I was reading Scout at the same time I was reading. Yeah. He did a mini-series with Wolverine and Spider-Man. I can't remember what it was called. It was like The Amazing Spider-Man and The Incredible Wolverine, something like that. Some silly kind of more fluffy in a lot of ways, but it had some serious tones to it. Superhero piece, completely different tone, clearly different language, different temperament whatsoever. And then, of course, there was Scout, which is this kind of, set on the Indian reservations in America, very crime-oriented, kind of like Southern Bastards, just very gritty, very hard, So, I mean, he's got these two tones that he's does a very good job of separating the two. He has his independent, really just painful work. I mean, it is painful. It's painful to read, but so good. And then you have this other stuff where he's still writing this really brilliant, work that's just a completely different tone. And that's awesome that he can do both, for sure.
Yeah. Copperhead, yeah, Copperhead? I've read that. Yep.
What do you think of the Copperhead? We're 4 issues in now?
Yep. The same as I always do. It's my fun book of the month. I save it for the very end because I know I'm guaranteed like a good read, and I'm not going to get pissed off at anything. Yeah. I always just have fun with it. It's just easy.
Yeah.
And it's so different from everything else I'm reading too.
Like I said, it continues to have that a great kind of Western feel to it, even though it's set in space and stuff, and so I'm continuously loving that. I love some of the setups of some of the stuff. I was deeply amused by the guy who runs the copper mine. Clearly, he's in charge of the entire place. He's super rich. He controls the city. He controls everything, or what thinks he wants to. And of course, new sheriff in town that he can't control, thinks she's a bitch. So he calls up her old boss or whatever and goes, "What can you tell me, and how can I get rid of this lady?" And he tells this big long story about how they did one on this case and they had this problem, and there was this fat old rich guy who thought he could get away with forcing them, and suddenly he showed up murdered one day, and then she quit and left. Do you know any fat? Of course, the guy that he's talking to is a fat rich guy. What a beautiful way! What a beautiful, somewhat polite way of telling him, "Tough shit. You're gonna deal with this lady." Being the sheriff there was awesome.
I like that too.
I even liked the little bit of, I don't know, post-traumatic stress flashbacks that Boo, the deputy, has in here to give us a little more of his personality and what his own experience was.
And I like that they don't have the kid in it too much, because I'm not a big fan of kids in comics. I usually tune out for some reason. It's just one of my little things. And he's not in it enough to bug me. But he's a good little kind of plot device.
Sure.
So I like that.
Sure.
No, it's just fun. I don't actually overanalyze it too much because it's just so easy.
Right. Right. Yeah. A fun.
And that
fun
cover's pretty good too.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the best so far. Yeah, I love it.
And excited for next issue now that she's caught up with the maybe bad guy out in the middle of the Badlands where nobody's supposed to go in the dark, and there she is out in the dark. So.
Yeah. No, she's cool.
Did you pick up Punks, number 3?
I did. Yes, I did.
No nut punching in it.
No, there isn't. I'm disappointing.
I'm done. There's no nut punching. I'm not reading this book anymore.
Yeah. I mean, what can you say about it, really?
No, nothing.
No, nothing.
I I don't know how much. I mean, this one was amusing. Just the whole. I don't know why they got spun off. You know, they go open up the refrigerator and suddenly they're inside of Red October. You know, they're using Sean Connery and Alec Baldwin and doing this whole Red October spoof in it. It's funny.
Yeah.
I don't know, to be quite honest. I don't know if I'll keep getting it.
I know, yeah.
Solely because
it's absurd. It's definitely my sense of humor.
Yeah.
But I'm reading God Hates Astronauts, which I find is kind of similar in that really absurd kind of way. So I could definitely do without this book. Not because I dislike it. It just feels really unnecessary to me.
Uh-huh.
It doesn't really have a lot to say either.
Right. So that's my problem with it. I think it's funny. It's funny, but it's like they almost flirt with having a piece of. I guess for me, I want my punks to have some level of. For me, anyway, it has some level of social commentary.
Yes. Yeah. I think the fact that
it's not there. It almost like the first issue. It almost flirted with it. You know, with the whole girl coming over and the way the dudes kind of treated her and whatnot. I thought, okay, they're gonna give us some sort of social commentary, and then it's just kind of like. And since then, it's been less and less with every issue, and now it's just kind of, like I said, it's funny. I'm not saying I hate it, but I wanted to have just that little bit of an edge there.
Yeah,
to have me read it, laugh my ass off, and at the same time go, they're playing with that, you know.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Is it a little too much like the young ones then? Is what you're thinking?
No, the young ones had something to say, I think.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it felt like every episode of the young ones, they were mocking something. They were.
Yeah. This isn't.
And this issue, unless I'm missing the mockery of the whole Red October thing. And I mean, what they're poking fun at the holidays because Abe Lincoln's having a holiday, and it's every holiday. You know, the ACLU shows up, and they're all toothbrush heads. Which I thought that was kind of funny but yeah, I don't know. It's not quite. It doesn't quite deliver my punk the way I want it to deliver it. As absurd as that, I guess that sounds. My commercial punk isn't good enough for me.
I'm not buying the T-shirt.
No. I'd buy the tie though. If somebody was selling that tie of skull, you know, dick punching dog, I'd wear that tie. That'd be an awesome tie to wear to work.
Yeah.
I guess people were really upset over this cover.
Yeah, I heard. I read that on Twitter.
I'm like, seriously? Somebody holding up a little placard of somebody giving the finger? That's offensive?
I'm wondering if that was a bit of a publicity stunt, though, because he had a censorship package that he uploaded to Twitter. He sent a link through it, and it was ready.
Dropbox. Yeah, Dropbox.
Yeah, it was just all ready to go, and I just kind of felt that was very what's the word? It was ready to go.
Right.
Basically.
They anticipated the stink around it and whatnot. Yeah. So it felt very a publicity stunt.
Have you heard anything about people being offended though? Because as far as I'm concerned, there's worse things on covers than this. So I'm wondering if they were trying to create a bit of punk hype over their own title.
I don't know. Even quite honestly, as much as you embrace the word bitch, I think seeing bitch boldly written across the cover of a comic book sticks out a heck of a lot more than that little circle does.
Yeah, no, I don't actually buy that. I think that was forced. So.
Can I say one more thing about Bitch Planet? I forgot.
Yeah.
Speaking of the whole realm of the whole feminism aspect of this and whatnot. So, the largest chain in Chicago, which is a very big city with lots of comic book stores in it, the largest chain did an online review of Bitch Planet and talked about it. And so they put across, Bitch Planet, they made an asterisk out of the I, so what? But they referred to the writer. The writer was Mrs. Matt Fraction and the artist name.
Oh, shit.
Exactly. I saw that and I'm like, shit wasn't what I said, but yes. Yeah. I mean, to me, I don't know if they did that. I mean, and clearly I've seen nothing to say about it. I mean, I've seen other people who write articles, they're on Twitter, who go to those shops who were very embarrassed and wrote, called their shop up and said, how dare you do this? So I don't think they were doing it tongue-in-cheek. I don't think they were thinking they were playing into the whole thing. They were just being cute, terrible. And it is horrible.
Yeah. That's terrible.
Whatever you think of Kelly Sue's work, she's gotten where she's at on her own merits, not on her husband's merits. As a matter of fact,
I agree.
she was working for Marvel and had Marvel gigs before her husband did. So to do that just seemed really horrible.
No,
I mean,
that's terrible.
Holy cows!
No.
I had to bring that up because that just brought the whole thing home, the whole feminist aspect of it. I'm like, are you kidding?
Yeah.
How do you do that? How do you do that on that book of all books too?
Yeah.
So, holy cows.
I would have loved to have seen her reaction.
I think she was flying at the time, because she was up in Toronto or something like that doing the release party, and they were having all kinds of problems with airplanes. I think she was in flight, so I don't know. I don't know. I haven't seen her talk a lot on Twitter here lately. I think she's been pretty busy.
Yeah.
What other? Oh, I'll talk about this briefly because I know T loves this book.
Oh yeah, no, I dropped that. That's one I actually dropped when I said I was going to.
Number 2 anyway, even after you said you were going to drop it.
Oh man, no, I hated it.
Good call. Because this issue was way worse. Because whereas the first issue at least attempted to set something up. This issue there was nothing other than we learned if you smear the blood of a demon on somebody, it makes them forget.
Yeah.
Other than that, oh, and there's they're in here taking selfies of each other as they're slowly stripping, but no, it's.
No, I got a really bad vibe from that book.
Yeah, it's a train wreck. I mean,
I like to give books 2 or 3 chances, and that one really was just a definite no for me. So.
Yeah. Yeah, good call. Good call.
Are you stuck with getting the 3rd issue or?
No.
Okay, cool.
No, I waited until the last second to do my order, so I got most of the month's books because there were quite a few books that I was uneasy on. That's why I ended up with the 2nd issue of the Humans, also. Yeah. And actually, I liked the Humans better than this book because at least with the Humans, there was a lot more for me to complain about. There's not enough content in this one for me to have a lot to complain about. Is that sad?
Yeah. No, I agree because I went and picked up the Humans too because there was so much to complain about.
Right.
Synergy was just a dud. It was. Yeah.
Oh. So, Sex Criminals?
I didn't get my shop didn't get.
Oh, that's right.
I missed out on out on that one in Deep State.
Yeah, I won't talk about this one a whole lot other than I was tickled to death by the stealth David Bowie reference that's in it.
Yeah.
And it's nowhere else in the book. There's nothing else about it. I mean, because when I first saw that, I'm like, of course I tweeted the picture of it, and I'm like, wow, that's just you guys happen to look and it's like this, lyrics from the song Fashion, and I thought, okay, there's gonna be other David Bowie references in it somewhere. I didn't see any others, but maybe I missed them. They do a fun thing in here where the authors and artists of this are good buddies with the authors and artists of The Wicked and the Divine.
Ah, okay.
They're all friends. In this issue, you know how the porn industry makes kind of fake versions of lots of the things that are out there. Well, maybe you're not aware of that, but they do. Anyway, the porn industry. Yeah.
Tell us more.
Right.
Elaborate.
So in this, they're making a porno that is The Wicked and the Divine. I mean, it's called something else that's close to The Wicked and Divine, and they're all dressed up like, one of them is dressed up like Lucifer in it. The other ones, they're all dressed up like the characters from that comic book, which I thought was really funny in here that they're poking fun at their, at their friends and whatnot.
I really love stuff like that. That's cool.
It was hilarious. Gosh, I should remember what the heck it was called. It was pretty funny. I thought it was hilarious anyway. But anyway, there was that. They are coming up with a plot to deal with the sex police and.
So is it coming together a bit more? Because I kind of felt like they lost their momentum after the last arc.
Well, yes, in a way, because in this, they're basically standing in front of this. They have a cork board up, and they have all these people's names because they stole all those files from the sex police. Yeah. And they've discovered there's a whole bunch of other people who have the same ability as them. They fall into the quiet or cum world or whatever you want to call it. And so they're just, wow, there's all these people. Well, lo and behold, one of the people that has this ability is John's porno crush, the Jasmine St. Crux or whatever the heck her name is.
Yeah.
We get a backstory of her. We get a backstory of
Yeah.
her, what they're plotting, what they're going to do. They go to the library that's destroyed, and they finally decide to come up with a plan that they think they're going to gather together all of these people that the sex police are harassing, and they're going to go after the sex police. They're going to screw with the sex police until the sex police gives up, gives them the money to buy a whole new building and put up a whole new library. You know, Susan is still obsessed with this library that got flattened. That's her new goal now. Gather up all of the people who have the same ability as them. They're going to mess with the sex police until the banking guy, who's the head banker, gives them the money to open up a new library. And that's simple but fun. I mean, like I said, this was another one of those issues I enjoyed. It was amusing again.
For me anyway, it's not the plot in Sex Criminals particularly. It's the dialogue and the relationships between the characters that I'm enjoying. So yeah.
Right. And that's what it is for me too. But it has to have some sort of substance to get us from point A to point B at some point. And sometimes that feels like that disappears. And to me, it felt like that was back again here and whatnot. So it was fun.
Excellent. That's good to hear.
Coffin Hill. Are you still reading Coffin Hill?
Yes, I got Coffin Hill.
The Killing Floor.
What a weird one.
This is a one-shot. Art by Ryan Kelly.
Yeah. Fantastic art.
I love Ryan Kelly. He's one of my favorite. He's one of my favorite artists.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. I don't know if I'm too familiar with his work, actually, so I'm going to have to hunt down more. What else has he done?
He did this great little series with Brian Wood called Local. That's the first place I read him in, which is a really great thing. He did Saucer Country for a while. Not a very popular series. It got canceled. It was out by Vertigo. Me and Comics to Comic were big fans of it. Really enjoyed that. Most of his work is independent work. He did a lot of inking on, I think, like Lucifer and stuff like that. He just recently did, if you're reading Dead Boy Detectives, he just recently did a one-shot or a two-issue through Dead Boy Detectives 2. I actually bought some of his original art. I just got it mailed to me a couple days ago. And he mailed me an issue of Dead Boy Detectives along with that. That was
cool.
But yeah, that's some of the work he's done. I'll tweet you some of their stuff when I can remember what some of their stuff is. I really like it. So this was kind of a creepy, you know, you got your kind of Manson family group driving across the countryside, you know, killing people, stealing their money, and supposedly they're riding with a profit. Yeah. Basically, a bunch of mentally unstable people doing horrible stuff to other people, and they they mistakenly come upon a house that they think has some rich lady living in it, and it backfires on them dramatically. The lady who is in there, a young woman, is way more crazy than them, and absolutely devastates them. They show up with masks on, and they're gonna torture her and mess her up, and she messes them all up and butchers them all and everything.
This is a really cool storyline. I'm really hoping to see it tied into the main story.
Yeah, you know, I was trying to figure out what, this is 1970, so this would be Eve Coffin's mom, I would assume, at the end of this, who's manipulating the girl in this whole ritual, whatever. Yeah. I don't know how much it'll incorporate in. I'm thinking it's just kind of informing us just how, potentially evil and off the deep end Mom is. I don't know,
I thought it was brilliant. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was cool. It was cool. It was creepy.
Yeah.
Any other?
Yeah, I've got a few more. Wild's End. Do you read that?
I do, but I didn't get mine.
Okay.
My supplier, that and East of West, the one shot, got damaged being shipped from Diamond to them, so they sent them all back. So I'll get mine next week. But you can go ahead and talk about it. Did this one pick back up?
There's nothing much to really say. It's
more of the
really
same.
just more of the same, but it's still good. I like this one because of all the different personalities in it and watching them kind of communicate and figure out problems. So and it's still good in that regard. So
cool.
And it's refreshing. I find it's probably the most different book I'm reading at the moment. It's like a children's book, but it's certainly not. So
right.
Yeah, I don't actually have much to ever say about it. You're going to enjoy it.
I mean, you're right. It has all the looks of a children's book, but clearly, you know, people get their heads flamethrowered off and stuff like that. So it's not. It's not.
No, I like that. It's really cool. But it does move on. They're still just wandering around a forest, really. But
that's issue 5.
4.
4. Okay, so there's 2 more issues left because it's 6 issues long.
I think it's going to read really well as a trade.
Sure.
I look forward to it every month because it is that little bit of refreshing difference. But I think it's going to read really well as a book in particular. So, yeah. And I picked up Hexed as well for the first time. Wonky Ninja actually recommended this to me because he recommended a book called Wayward. I recently picked that up and I really enjoyed it. So he said, check this one out. I was a bit dubious because I didn't like the cover art, but it's actually brilliant. I really like it.
That's a Boom Studio book?
It is, yeah. And I'm jumping in at the wrong point. This is issue 5, and I want to go back and get the other 4. So I didn't read it kind of thoroughly, but I'm really excited about it. It's kind of got 2 female leads and supernatural kind of stuff. It's different enough that it's not really a cliche. Some of the art's just really nice kind of art.
Yeah. Oh, that's the picture of the guy thrown up. I wonder what the heck that was from. I saw you tweet that. I'm like, what the hell is that a picture from?
It's really good. A real surprise because I mean, not many people are reading it, so you kind of think your book this good, people might be reading it, and they're not. So, I mean, I reserve my judgment because I haven't read the first 4. But yeah, no, pretty cool.
I saw it. I saw it, but I didn't pick it up because I wasn't sure that it wasn't tied in. There was a not so good TV show called Hex, and I saw that title, and I was nervous. I was like, I'm not going to finish that.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't pick it up because I think supernatural kind of stuff, as much as I like it, it's got to be done really, really well for me to bother with it. And this seems, it's just far away from being cliche that I like it. So, and the artwork, I think, just really drew me in. I'm, as everybody probably knows by now, I'm a sucker for artwork. If it's bad, I end up kind of hating the book and have to work my way through it. And if it's good, I'm easily won over. So it's really good.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah. And the only other ones I got was Afterlife with Archie, which was my first time reading it.
Well, you got both. You got both.
Yeah, I did because the covers are gorgeous.
Yeah.
I don't have a lot to say because I'm only halfway through what just before I came on, I was reading it. So the artwork's gorgeous and I'm really loving the story. So yeah.
Hard to say no to Francavilla art. So.
Yeah.
But I do like the traditional cover better than the Francavilla cover. This is the one time that I actually.
Ah, okay.
I think that's fun.
Yeah.
But.
No, it's really cool. I'm looking forward to getting into that series. And the only other one I got, and I also haven't read it, is The Valiant, which I started reading as well, but I haven't. It's not really my kind of thing. I think I'm going to have to work at it to enjoy it, which I'm fine with. But people seem to like it from what I've read. So
that's like written by Lemire and is that written by Lemire and
yeah, it is.
Matt Kent?
Yeah. Yep. I can't say much about it. I don't know anything about it, unfortunately. So, but they do some really great things with the artwork and the lettering in it too, like putting in the sound effects once again through the actual picture. It's really visually appealing. So I think that might draw me in over the story, which I'm not really clicking with. So we'll see. You're not getting it?
Nope. I don't get much in the way of Valiant books. I've picked some up in the past and just never hung on with them. And now I guess it's like I don't know where I would want to start at for sure,
Mhm.
which is silly because I'm one of those people that always says, "Screw it, just jump in somewhere and you'll figure it out,"
Yeah.
kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But for some reason, Valiant is a company that I'm apprehensive to do that with, and I don't
Okay.
know why. When it comes to like DC or Marvel, I always tell people not to sweat it, just jump in somewhere, you'll figure it out as you go along, because
Yeah.
it's usually not that complicated that you can't kind of pick up, or there isn't enough of a community out there that's going to fill in the few holes that you need to have figured out for you. So
You wouldn't even pick it up considering that Jeff Lemire is writing it? Are you a fan of his writing?
I go back and forth. Some of his stuff I really like a
Okay.
lot, and some of it I don't care for so much.
Right, okay.
I like his independent stuff. I'm hot and cold on his superhero stuff. I
Yeah.
liked his Green Arrow run. It was tight, and he felt like he had something he wanted to go and he wanted to do. I read a couple issues of Justice League United,
Mhm.
and didn't care for a single issue of it, and dropped it as fast as I could. So it's kind of, I like things like Sweet Tooth. Thought that was great.
Yeah.
I was liking Trillium right up until about the end of it, and decided I didn't care for that Vertigo
Yeah.
book because I didn't like the way it ended at all. So yeah, that's where I'm kind of that. I like Matt Kent. I've enjoyed anything I've read by Matt Kent though, and if he's writing it too,
Okay.
two of them, it might be something to look at.
What else
getting.
has he written? I'm not familiar with his writing.
Matt Kent, I think what Mind Management, I think is his solo book that he does.
Oh.
When the New 52 started up, Jeff Lemire was writing Frankenstein and the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. He jumped off the book. Matt Kent took over, and I thought the book got better. I really enjoyed that run. There's some people who didn't, but really enjoyed that. And Matt Kent has just kind of bounced around and filled in here and there for both Marvel and DC here recently. Yeah, but he's somebody he's kind of like Jeff Lemire. He comes from way off in the spectrum of bio independent kind of books, and has somehow found a foothold amongst the the big two for a while. So yeah.
Cool.
Some other books that I read FBP, Federal Bureau of Physics. Still really enjoying this. This gets back to the main storyline. Our main character, they find out where his father's lost book is, and go and collect it, and they get informed that the world's coming to an end, and this guy who's a super genius has figured out how come the world's falling apart, how come physics are going crazy and stuff like that. And it's because there's a finite amount of dark matter in the world, and dark matter is what holds the universe up, keeps us all suspended in outer space, and the universe is continuing to expand, and it's stretched that dark matter past its breaking point, and so very soon, sometime in the very near future, reality is just going to split apart, and things are going to, blow up, and our main characters are like, yeah, whatever, I don't care. Because this guy that has his book and is informing this has kind of been a thorn in their side this whole time, so they really want nothing to do with them. They start to go home, and the final page of it is a giant reality tornado is sucking the city up, and so they may have to come up with a battle plan very quickly. I still really enjoy the book. Ponticelli is the new artist that's on it. I really don't care for his last couple issues that much. This issue looks a little more solid. I think he's had more time to not have to hurry his inks so much, so the artwork looks a little better. I always like the coloring because the coloring is just kind of this odd palette throughout, and it just looks enough different to my eye that I enjoy the strange palette of the book. So still enjoying it.
Cool.
Oh, Shudder. I'm not sure who else. I think like.
No, I was going to pick that up because apparently it's a new arc.
Yes, it is. Yeah. If you hadn't read the first, I don't know how much sense this would make, because I mean it's a new arc. It's a new arc, but it's still dealing with the same conflict. Our main character has suddenly found out that she has all these siblings of her crazy family, and some of those siblings, one are dead. This is one of her older sisters, she sicks a monster on them that they fight for a while. The monster swallows them up and then flies back to the older sister who lives in Cambodia, which is just, I don't know, somewhere in my head that just seems perfect that, that this horrible person would basically be the new version of Pol Pot, in Cambodia, and, the monster basically regurgitates them out, and they are now captured by this evil sister. Then we'll find out what's going on. Just like the book because of the kooky things like these bats here that have revolvers for heads that fly out of the giant monster's mouth. This is the giant monster breathing fire down at them, and this is one of the revolver bats flying around, attacking them. It's such a strange and just weird and kooky book, but I really love it. But it's a challenge too, just because it's so odd, and because it's our reality, but it's so not our reality because there's multi-armed people, there's lots and lots of animals that are have human personalities, walk bipedal, and it's just really strange. It's hard to explain the whole environment that it's in, but I enjoy it. But I only know like one or two other people that actually read the thing. Hey, kitty cat. What's your cat's name?
Peaches.
Peaches is really, really entranced.
I don't actually know what she's looking at. She's a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
Aren't you?
And of course, I'm reading Abe's Sapien. I'm still loving it. It continues to still be basically Abe's doing this long soul search. It's number 18. Love the art, the style that these two brothers have. This one in particular is Max Futurama, who's doing this one. Sebastian's his brother. They both take turns on the book. We get to find out a lot more of Grace's backstory. We as the readers kind of know it, but she finally breaks down and tells Abe's what her backstory is. And then we've got this kind of, they've come to this town that's on the Gulf Coast of the United States. Everything there is perfect. The electricity still works. They find food without any problems. There are no monsters. Cars still drive. Everything's still great. And like 20 minutes outside of town, it's completely destroyed. Either hurricanes destroyed everything or the monsters destroyed everything. And so while they're living this wonderful life in this little town, somewhere in the back of their heads, they're going, there has to be something wrong. How in the world could this one town? And of course, by the end of this issue, we start to get to see some of the potential sinister stuff that's going on. Somebody is dealing with higher powers potentially to somehow keep their town intact. And what sacrifices are being made to make the town stay intact will be interesting. So I read a few others, but I don't care to talk about them. It's just me talking about them. So, but so yeah, it was a pretty decent week. Some great books. Definitely some great books that inspire some interesting conversations. What do you got, Mike? Oh yes,
Little Nemo. With Little Nemo, I know T, you're mentioning about art, and I have to say that Gabriel Rodriguez, I loved him Lock and Key, and he continues in and plays around this episode with, I don't even know what you call those paintings that one thing blurs into the next.
The Escher, like the Escher prints that do these, yeah.
And there is the tower also where, the tower goes up and then down and it continues around. And, I love it. The story is fun. This is a children's book. But the only thing I wonder is each time he enters, each time the Nemo falls asleep, he enters dreamland. And so it's like it all starts again for him. And the princess wants a playmate, and there's this other guy now who wants to occupy his time and doesn't want him to play with the princess. And I do wonder where this is heading. They do show a little bit of the struggle between the guy who wants Nemo to not be the playmate and Bon Bon who wants the playmate for the princess. I am starting to get a little, tired of where the story's going. Um, I do hope that it quickly moves into the next stage and develops a little bit more. Uh, I know it was a serialized comic book there for a while, and was you could do that. You could just week after week keep telling this little weird story, and then he wakes up every morning and it just seemed funny. But it's starting to seem like it's wearing on me now. And I was hoping to talk with Damien. I know he's still reading it.
Mm-hmm.
It is still cute. It is still light, fun, and enjoyable. But I wonder at what point I need something more. And I feel like I'm getting to that point where I need the next part of the story.
So, do you think it's because it's written? I mean, do you feel like it's written more for a younger audience, and that's why? Whereas they're keeping it simple, and that's the problem you're having with it? I mean, are they writing it like the traditional Little Nemo back from the strips way, way, way back in the day, where clearly they weren't telling us as complicated as stories?
No, I think they're getting ready, and I think that's the thing with introducing this other character who in the day was wearing blackface and now it's green, but otherwise it's still blackface.
Yeah.
It seems like they're getting ready. It's now there's going to be probably some conflict, which is what I'm hoping. If the next one there's not enough conflict, I think I could drop it and then wait and see what Damien says after a couple more issues. It only comes out every 2 months, so it's also a little more difficult on that end. And in fact, because I had forgotten it until I saw that Damien had picked it up. So I will be getting the next one, seeing, because this is number 3, so I'll be getting at least the up to 5, I think, and then determining if I just do trades at that point. But I want to stay with it. I think that's the part is I do want to, but I'm ready for the next step. So
yeah, the art in it is still amazing, though. Everything I see of it's just.
And that's what it comes down to. Rodriguez is definitely a big selling point.
Right, and that's what takes it the 2 months, because he needs that time to.
Yes.
To put out that quality of a book.
Yeah. Which is what hooked me.
Right, which I know it's hard. It's hard to read a book that a single issue book that only comes out every couple of months. To get re-engaged, I think. But at the same time, I want quality work, so I tell myself I'm willing to wait for that. I mean, clearly, like in the case of the Sandman Overture book that's coming out, that it's like 4 to 6 months between issues.
Yeah.
I hate that. I mean, don't get me wrong, that just drives me crazy. I mean, I've ordered it, and I'm not even thinking about it. But I know I'll love it once I get to read it, because it's high-end J.H. Williams III artwork, and that's just you can't get that in comic books except for rarely, it seems like. So you suffer, I guess, with it for that.
Yeah, and I definitely cheated with Lock and Key. I was able to get all the trades, and then I started collecting individual issues at the last series. And so I was really lucky on that. And it's definitely been a new experience then for me to not get instant gratification, to get it issue by issue. And we talked about it several times on, does this sell better in trade? Is it meant for trade? Which, almost everything is now, but this one, possibly, maybe it is about the individual issues, though.
Yeah. Yeah. And speaking of long times between books, I heard that non-player issue number 2 is finished and actually going to the printer. Now, everybody's probably going, non-player issue number 2, what the hell is that? 3 years ago? 2 years ago. I think it's 2 years ago. Yeah, 2 years ago, non-player number 1 came out to rave reviews. It's an incredibly gorgeous, gorgeous book, basically set in a reality of an RPG computer game, where most of the time is spent in this wonderful environment, and then there's this outside world that these people live in. The art is incredibly gorgeous in it. It was actually a really interesting story, because it kind of has to do with some stuff that goes on in the game, affects reality in some sense or whatever. Written by a guy who had been writing computer games and whatnot. The book was huge. It got movie deals and all kinds of stuff happened. And after issue number 1, and he hadn't even started issue number 2 yet. I mean, he literally hadn't put a single pencil to a single page for number 2 when number 1 was done. And I think the hype of it, whatnot, caused some problems. He got in a bicycle accident, broke his arm in like a dozen places. And I just figured it was done. But they just had this big announcement that number 2 is finally done. Really nice guy. I met him right as issue number 1 came out. It happened to come out when I was at a con that he was at. Great guy. But I just think it's, talk about how long it is.
Yeah.
I mean, I filed that comic book away in a box that I don't plan on probably ever opening up again because I figured I would never have to file anything else with it ever again.
Yeah.
Kind of a deal. So I don't know. Now I'm wondering if I had number 2 ordered and if it's still on back order, sitting there at Discount Comic Book Service, or do I need to reorder it again? I don't know. But that's a little too long. 2+ years.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with waiting for quality if I know the people are working on it, and that's why I'm waiting to get it. It's when the creators, I don't know, take an extended holiday and make me wait really long that it gets frustrating. So that's selfish of me, I know. It's not like, how dare they have a life. But
on another note, Travis, Jason Aaron, you were thinking the Astonishing Spider-Man and Wolverine?
That's what it was. Digitally, you're showing me a digital comic on my show?
I did pick it up that way, and it could have been a dumb book, but because of his writing, there were some interesting points in it and touching points. So
yeah,
so is there anything?
I don't like.
I was just going to say, is there any? I'll stop.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, is there anything that he's done that isn't good? Jason Aaron.
I don't like the way that miniseries ended. I do not like the way it ended.
All right.
Okay.
When it got to the end of it, I felt like I got hit with a silly stick at the end of it. It jumped a shark somewhere, and I just went, and I just kind of went, this is bullshit. I mean, I have to admit, there's a point in it, I just kind of went.
And
but there are other parts of it that are really cool.
Yeah, and I guess I could see it just because of I thought the whole book could have been that ridiculous.
Right.
So, all right.
But that was the problem is it felt like it had elements that were, this is cool, this is serious, we're talking honest subject matter here. We're trying to have a serious superhero story, which I'm one of those crazy people that I occasionally like to have a serious superhero story along with my light, fluffy superhero story. And it would be serious, and then you get those 2 guys from the other dimension show up with the baseball bat, with the diamonds stuck in it, whacking on people, and I'm just like going, oh no. So, so that part was bad.
All right.
In your opinion.
Yes, in my opinion, without a doubt.
I'd probably love it because it's stupid.
Everything. Well, like I said, if the whole thing was that way, I'd be fine. It's just and it wasn't like, and it wasn't put in like this is a light moment. It just completely threw the tone of the book off.
Yeah.
Like I said, the book's not nearly as radical as like his independent work, but it would be like reading one of those independent works and then suddenly having the tone of Spider-Man, the X-Men dropped into the middle of it suddenly.
All right. Yeah.
Gotcha.
And it just completely changes and kind of wrecks the mood of the book for me. So, and I'm sorry for everybody. I'm not really watching all of the comments because my comments show up and then they disappear, and so I don't know what to talk about or not. But I see that Brandon Mackhammer there is saying that Jason Aaron's Incredible Hulk run wasn't that good, in his opinion. So.
maybe I got that digitally too. Let me look.
Oh, yeah. So, Ryan C. is asking, does nobody read Suicide Risk? You thought I did? Yes, I am reading Suicide Risk. That's one of the books I just chose to talk about because nobody else is reading it. It's 20 issues in. The only way you'd be able to even remotely jump into this book is by buying all the trades because there is no jump-on point for this thing, which is one of the downfalls to it. I'm still really enjoying it.
How many issues is it?
20.
Ah, yeah.
With a horrible title. Suicide Risk, because Suicide Risk, it doesn't imply anything that the book is about anymore.
What is it? What is it? What
The
genre?
book, superhero sci-fi.
Oh, okay.
It's about basically a world like ours where suddenly superheroes start showing up in it, and then we find out that those superheroes are actually people from another dimension that have been sent to this dimension as a prison, and they've been mind wiped and had their powers suppressed, and they just live normal lives, and then suddenly sometimes the neutralization of their powers wears off, and so they become superheroes. And then sometimes their mind wipe starts to fracture, and small parts of their personality of who they were before start venturing in. And so
it sounds really cool.
It's a great comic. And you get these people that end up having split personalities. We find out that when they're in this other dimension, they were trying to overthrow the government because the government there was basically incredibly oppressive and only allowed people to operate in a certain fashion. And these people who had really high powers decided they were going to take it to them. They lost a fight, they get thrown in prison, and instead of going to prison, they get thrown to this other reality. And as they slowly start coming back into their own, it's battling ensuing right now is kind of where they're at. And now we're at the point where all of these people who have these split personalities, they all had their personalities mingled. So they've had this, what they perceive as an entire life they've lived as a human on Earth has been merged with this other dimension where they're these powerful beings. And they're having to come to terms with the fact that they have two lives. The main character has two wives right now. One who was this superpowered person who's currently really messed up and unconscious, and this human wife. And he has this daughter who's a split personality, who's probably the most powerful creature on the in the universe, in both universes. And he's having to try and figure out how he's supposed to deal with the fact that because his personalities were conjoined, he loves both of these women to death. They are both the women of his life. And how do you suddenly deal with the fact that you have two of them, and neither one of them are willing to share because neither one of them have that split personality? Each of those women see the other woman as being the other woman, and so that's what I think where the book is going next. It'll be an interesting conflict of how does he deal with that, the fact that that both of these women are the mother of his children, the love of his lives, but he has the same feelings for both of them. Exactly.
That sounds awesome.
Sounds like the mixture of Hancock and Highlander mixed together.
Yeah, kind of. Mike Carey is the guy who's writing it. A great writer. Has written lots of interesting stuff. Female artist, Elena Casgrande. I don't know how you say her name. I think she's Spanish, I think. So I butcher her name, but
What's the interior art look like, Travis?
This issue had some other people doing some finishes on it. I'm trying to get some pictures here that look like something. So I don't know. I mean, pretty standard kind of superhero. Depending on where they're at, depends on what kind of colors they use as far as tone. This is in the middle of the end of a huge battle between a bunch of the superpowered people and the people from the other universe, because the other universe has decided they need to just kill all these people off because this whole prison idea was really stupid. But they come from a utopia where supposedly capital punishment is no longer needed, but they've decided that doesn't really work really well for them. So
I really like the sound of it.
It's cool, but like I said, I noticed this is one of those books I just don't really think there's a real great place to jump in the middle of. I mean, not to say there are plenty of trades out. You can jump on trades and start picking up in singles if you thought you wanted to read it in singles. I enjoy it. It's really strange. Is the initial pitch for this? I was sitting in on a panel at a con when this book was announced. And it was announced as being, what do you do if you're a policeman and you're in a world where there are no more superheroes, all the superheroes have decided to basically become supervillains. How do you deal with that when you're a normal person.
Mm.
That's the initial build of the book. Now, as I've described this book to you guys, does that sound anything like? I mean, the main character is a cop. He starts out as a cop, but 2 issues in, he gets superpowers. So, yeah.
Do you think that was something that was changed, or he just didn't sell it right?
No, I just don't think he wanted to. He didn't want to. He didn't want to tell you what was going to happen.
Okay.
So he had to describe something. He had to tell you it was going to be something. But I mean, I think if he would have told you what was going to be coming on now, it would wreck the surprise. Because a lot of it is, I mean, a lot of it is a surprise. If you're the reader reading it, it's like, you're like going, what the heck's going on, because it takes quite a while for it to get explained where these powers are coming from and whatnot, because there's basically these pushers. There's this man and this woman who are basically drug users. They come upon this alien technology, and they're using it to reignite people's superpowers. They have no idea what they're doing. They're like, hey, give me $5,000, I'll test you, and if you test positive, I'll zap you with this wand on your forehead, and you'll get some kind of superpower. All you have to do is pay me another $10,000. And then they're turning around and taking that money and buying blow and living in nice hotels. I mean, it takes quite a while to figure out exactly what's going on. And like I said, it's been a fun story, but it's
It has been interesting because I know as a viewer of your show, watching you as you were reading it, and you're like, yeah, this is great, and this is now getting weird, and what is this book?
Yeah.
So yeah, we talked about it. There's definitely other books that we've read, going in expecting one thing and then giving another, and it is tough that if you really wanted that initial hook, it's tough to go with the flow.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's why I try to read solicits as little as possible, to be quite honest. For me, sometimes I purchase things based on title, look of an image, gut feeling on it, and try not to read a whole bunch into it, because, of course, we suffer from the hype, right? If a book gets too hyped up, or if it we read too much about something, we get an expectation of what it's going to be, and then when we get it, it doesn't meet that expectation, all those kinds of things. So I really try to. I mean, there's some books coming up that I'm excited about, but I'm trying really hard not to look up things on them. Curb Stomp. I love that name because I've always loved the word curb stomp. I don't know why. It's just one of those things I love to say, and I love the idea. So, but I don't want to look a whole bunch. I mean, I know it has to do with girl gangs, I think, but I don't want to look at it too closely because I'm just afraid that I'm gonna get some idea in my head of what it is, and then when I get it, I'm gonna go, that's not what I wanted or whatever, and or like the witches thing.
There's another one. Witches.
What's the other one?
I was just going to say there's another one coming out in a couple of months called Lady Killers, which could be okay as well. But I'm kind of trying to do my best to stay away from reading.
That one's written by Jolene Joel. Written or art? I can't remember. It's written or art. I know she's attached to it. For those people who don't know that name for something, I know a lot of people in the community were really excited by Helheim. She did the art in Helheim. A lot of people were excited by that Oni Press book. This is something else that she's doing. Yeah, I'm kind of excited by that too. Right, kind of a 1950s.
Yeah, Housewives
1950s
gone bad.
Housewives gone bad. So I'm that's on my list of things to pick up. Like I said, I don't want to read a lot into it, but it sounds cool. So excited for some of that stuff for sure. Anything else we want to talk about?
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you guys coming on. I appreciate everybody who's tuned in to watch here live or will watch it later on down the road. Always a pleasure having you on, Mike. T, it was great to have you here. Hope we have you on again.
Thanks for having me.
In a couple weeks, the last week of this month, December, I'm basically opening that up to being a end of the year show. We'll just talk about comics for the year. So I hope to drag as many of you on for that show as I can, or any other show you want to jump on. That'd be great too. But I just wanted the people who watch this show who don't watch my other videos, if you made it to the end of this, tune into that show. Somewhere between now and then, I'm going to post a little more concrete list of things for us to talk about. Best book of the year, best creators of the year, and all that kind of stuff. So with that, we'll call it a night. Goodbye, everybody.